Hello, dear student. How are you? Welcome to another intermediate grammar class. If I'm not mistaken, we are on the fifth lesson today. We covered present simple, present continuous, and today I will finish it up by comparing these two verb tenses with you. Okay? So the first thing I want to remind you is that for each and every verb tense that exists in English, there is a specific timeline to represent it. This timeline will help you understand how a native speaker understands or perceives time. So when it comes down to present simple, the first time you see present simple, I think you can't see this high. Let me put it a little bit lower. Present simple. So every time you see that, you can be sure that you are describing some periodic event in the present. Okay, that's the meaning of present simple in simple sentences. Okay, because in more complex sentences and in more advanced English, you see that sometimes this can also be used to describe the future, but we will get there in due time, not right now. So, if it's a periodic event in the present, I am talking about something that repeats itself over and over. For example, when I say that water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, this happened in the past, this happens now, and it will continue happening into the future. I am describing an event that's periodic. It happens all the time, according, of course, to what you're describing. In this case, it's a fact. As a fact, it repeats itself over time all the time. So it always repeats itself. But sometimes we have routines. For example, when you say that once a week, we eat out. So what you're saying is that now this periodic event has a pattern of behavior. It repeats itself 1 week after another because you do it once a week, one time per week. Okay? Anyway, that's the meaning of present simple. Probably you already know that. But let's talk now about present continuous. So, again, you can't see it. Oh, I lost track of the measurements of the board. So again, here, present continuous. I think you can see it better. Okay, present continuous. What do we use it for? Basically, to describe temporary events. So you see that they are completely different. I'll even write verses here because one is for a routine in the present and the other is for a temporary situation. So let's draw this timeline over here so you can visualize this better. We are here right now, we are in the middle of doing something. We started this something sometime in the past. We will finish this something sometime in the future, and we are right in the middle of the process. So that's what we use the present continuous for. Okay? So we can see that they are completely different. I'm not going to explore the grammar rules because I have already done that extensively. So if you want to brush up on this, if you want to review, go back and watch the first videos of this course. Okay? So the first difference, the two differences, or the difference between these two verb tenses with timelines, I hope you have understood this better now. With present simple, it's quite common that we use adverbs of frequency. For example, we could say always. We could say usually. And all that bunch of adverbs that I've taught you recently, right? I taught you last class. So if you don't remember them, go back. But it starts in always, usually, often, sometimes, seldom, rarely, ever, finally, never. Okay, that's those frequency adverbs that we use. And they are quite common here in the present simple, of course, because we are talking about a periodic event, so they describe the period. They describe when and how often these situations occur. But what is very interesting at this level that you are now is that sometimes we can use adverbs of frequency over here. Adverbs of frequency. But this must be done with very careful hands. And I mean that whenever you use an adverb of frequency over here, you are not describing a periodic event. No. Rather, you were describing some kind of annoyance. You are annoyed by something. You don't like something happening. So you make a metaphorical speech and you use a structure that originally belongs to present simple here. But this will happen with some particular adverbs. For example, always, always, continually, continually, forever, forever, and usually. So these are the adverbs that you can use with present continuous. But again, when you use them, you are describing that you are annoyed by something. So look at the two examples. One example that will give you two approaches. One approach of an adverb of frequency being used with present simple and an adverb of frequency being used with present continuous. I think you'll understand this better. So in this first case, I'm going to say Gao, which is my muse, my goddess. She always starts her concerts. She always starts her concerts with a pop song. A pop song. Okay, so this is a very typical example of present simple, right? Gao is she. We know that for he, she, it, we need to add s at the end of the verb. Between the subject and the verb, I have an adverb of frequency. But in this case, guys, what I'm doing is I am explaining how often. So I'm not showing any kind of emotion. I'm not angry at Gao. I'm not disappointed. I'm just saying that she always starts her concerts with pop songs or with a pop song. How often? Always. I am describing how often. That's the only thing that I'm doing here. But if I bring this sentence over here and I use it, I can use the same adverb but with a different verb tense with, for example, present continuous. I could say Gao is forever singing pop songs. Oh, Gao's forever singing pop songs. So in this case, I'm not very satisfied. I could even use always. Oh, Gao's always singing pop songs. We could also say, instead of singing pop songs, so it can give you a better idea of what I meant, because I changed it. She's always starting her concerts with a pop song. Sorry, I had changed the example, but I wanted to preserve the exact same example. So Gao is forever starting her concerts with a pop song. She's always starting her concerts with a pop song. And now, you see, I don't like it. I don't like it. In this example, I am annoyed by it. I don't like that she always starts her shows with a pop song. So you see that if you use an adverb of frequency here with present continuous and look at the position of it, always after verb to be, because you can never break this conjunction. You can never break the subject and the verb if you've got verb to be. So it's always after it. Gao is always or forever starting her concerts. Verb to be, a verb with ing over here, and you know that this is the structure for present continuous. So keep in mind that you can sometimes, if you want, to use adverbs of frequency with present continuous, but keep in mind that when you say that you are annoyed, you don't like it, okay, this is a special use. If you just want to describe how often something happens, we use present simple normally. Okay? Very well indeed. Next step, state verbs. Okay, it's quite common for students to get a little confused at this moment, but let's hope that you will not be one of them. Look at this. I will say that this is the word jump. Run, another word, work. So you see these verbs that I wrote here on the board. If I tell you what jump is, you can imagine it involves some kind of movement, isn't it? Movement. Because when you jump, you're moving. When you run, you're moving. When you work, you are moving. There is movement. So as there is movement, we call them action verbs. Action verbs. Because whenever I use them, some kind of movement is understood or is inferred. All right. But we've got other verbs. For example, the verb believe. Or the verb imagine. Or the verb agree. So you say something and I tell you, oh, I agree with you. Okay, that's a verb, but am I moving? When I say, for example, I believe in God. I believe in God. Am I moving right now? Do you see any movement happening? No, you don't. Because this is not an action verb. This is a state verb. And dear student, it is crucial that you understand right now what a state verb is. A state verb is a verb that does not represent an action. It represents a state of mind, a state of spirit. Okay? That is a state verb. So you can think of believe, imagine, agree, and I'm going to give you a list of verbs that are state verbs. And you can ask me very intelligently, you can ask me, oh teacher, but why do I need to know if the verb is a state, if the verb is an action? And I will let you know, dear student, I'm going to answer it right now. State verbs are not very commonly used with the continuous tenses. And because of that, we need to know who they are, because whenever we want to use them, we need to pay attention to this rule. We don't use them here, or most frequently we don't use them here. It's fun to teach the subject because once you get to the advanced level, you see that some verbs that are considered states right now, and for now are prohibited to be used with a continuous tense, they will be allowed to be used with a continuous tense, but it will require some other level of understanding the language. So for now, these verbs don't usually come with present continuous, okay? They are rather very useful and very used when we are saying something in the present simple. Okay, so let me write you some of these verbs. So here they are: need, want, like, hate, prefer, know. Guys, you can even try. Imagine if it's possible to visualize any movement when I say, I want water. What movement am I making? It's not an action. It's a state of my mind. I want something, right? No, and you can try the same rule with all of them, and you see that they are equal. I mean, it's not possible to visualize a movement for these verbs. So need, want, like, hate, prefer, know, realize, suppose, mean, understand, believe, remember, belong, fit, contain, and consist of. Consist of. Guys, these verbs over here, they are not commonly used in a continuous tense. We prefer to use them in the present simple. But teacher, even when I want to say, for example, eu não estou entendendo. Okay, for now, you're going to say, Okay, I should use it in the present continuous, but it's a state. States are not actions, so they are not continuous. So that's very tricky. You just need to keep imagining, eu não estou entendendo, but transport it over here, and you will write, I don't understand. I don't understand. Aluninho, please, you don't have to translate things literally, word per word. Okay, at this level, you should know that. We don't translate things word per word. We translate their ideas. So in this case, understand cannot come in a continuous tense. So even when I want to say, não tô entendendo, you will use I don't understand. Okay? And if you want to make it more clear, or to make it clearer that this is happening right now, you could say, I don't understand it right now. You can even write that. I don't understand that now. I don't understand it right now. Okay? You can do that, but you don't put it in the ing. You'll see that later on it's possible. Another verb, we can say, for example, querendo. Eu estou querendo sorvete. We do that in Portuguese all the time, but in English it's not possible. I want some ice cream. I want some ice cream. Not possible to say I am wanting. Again, for now, later on, we will see that there are some exceptions. So these verbs here, we prefer not to use them with the present continuous tenses. And so I can finish this lesson now is some verbs that also do not generally appear in the present continuous, but for a specific reason. They are called the perception verbs or verbs of perception. Wow, my board's a mess, but all right, verbs of perception. Verbs of perception. They are verbs that represent our five senses, right? When we think of seeing, right? Hearing, smelling, tasting, and feeling. These are the five senses, right? But if you want to talk about your five senses, like eu vejo, eu sinto, sinto gosto de, if you want to say things like this, you don't use these verbs in the ing form. I'm going just to show you how this works with some examples. Look at the verb see. See. Sometimes things happen precisely at a moment, and we want to say, oh, tá vendo aquilo ali? Você tá vendo aquele passarinho, for example? Você tá vendo aquele prédio? Because we want to focus on things that are happening right now. But in English, that doesn't happen. We cannot say, are you seeing that bird? Or are you seeing that building? Why not? Because they are five senses. They are not actions. If you open your eyes like this, you can see, can't you? And is that an action? Is that a movement? Are you moving your body when you are just seeing things? No, you're not. So the five senses, they are not actions. So they are considered states because they represent the five senses we've got. So in this case of, você tá vendo aquele passarinho? Do you see that bird? Mas teacher, está falando você vê aquele passarinho. Aluninho, please. At this point in your intermediate level of English, you don't translate things literally anymore. Okay? If you continue doing that, that's going to be a recipe for disaster. I'm so sorry. I regret to inform you that. We can't translate things per things or word per words. In this case, do you see that bird? We imagine, okay, está vendo aquele passarinho, but when it enters in English, we know that it can't be in a continuous tense, so we transform it into a present simple. Do you see that bird? Why am I doing this? Because if you see with ing in a present continuous, it means another thing. For example, John is seeing Mary. Look at that. Now we are using see in a continuous tense, but the meaning here is totally different. This doesn't mean o John tá vendo a Mary. This means o John tá saindo com a Mary. Eles estão se conhecendo melhor, eles estão se pegando. John is seeing Mary. So be careful with this, dear student. The verbs of the 5 senses, they generally have another meaning when used as an action. Okay? So in this case, John tá pegando a Mary, and in this case, John sees Mary. Okay? O John vê a Mary, mas pode ser que o John esteja vendo a Mary agora. So present continuous. The present continuous will be more than enough and more than sufficient for you to represent the 5 senses. Don't use them in the ing for now. Don't use them with the continuous tense. The same happens with, for example, here. Here. Guys, here is a natural ability we have got. It's not an action. So if you want to talk about an action, you can use the verb listen. So listen is an action, but not here. Okay? So I am listening to music. It's possible. This is a continuous tense. I am listening to music. Why is this possible? Because listening is an action, right? But here is not. Here is just something you are gifted, and you can hear. You know, you were born and you can hear. You're not doing anything, right? So in this case, you cannot say I'm hearing. In this case, you could just say, I hear. I hear voices. Eu ouço vozes. Ou eu estou ouvindo vozes. Mas eu não vou poder usar, but I cannot use I am hearing. You would just say, I am listening to. And don't forget that listen is always together with the preposition to. Always. Okay? All the time. Listen, listen to. An alternative for see, if you don't want to get confused, as you know that see is a state, if you want to use it as an action, you can change the meaning into look, olhar para, observe, or even watch, right? It really depends on what you want to convey as a message. But these verbs here, they are states. Verbs of perception, see, hear, smell, taste, feel. We don't use them as verbs of perception in the present continuous. No, we don't. We only use them in the present simple. Okay? If you want to use the present continuous, change the verb into something else. Okay? Dear student, I think we've covered everything that we were supposed to. Oh no, there is something else. I'm sorry. Dear student, as my eraser is making a mess on my board, I'm going to use a very old piece of cloth, but I really hope you don't mind, okay? Let's see. Let's see if it's no, it's not too ugly. So, in this case of talking about be versus being. You know, verb to be is clearly a state, but as it's an essential verb, it's a verb that we use a lot during our course, it accepts being used as an action, not as an action, but as a temporary state. So you could say, for example, John is stupid. In this case, you're saying that John is stupid all the time, right? But let's imagine John is not stupid. Let's imagine just right now, he's stupid. And he's acting in a stupid way. So in this case, I would say, John is being stupid. This is possible. Okay, is being. So you conjugate verb to be, is, am, or are. We know that here it is because of John plus being. And in this case, you are just talking about a temporary state. A temporary state. So, John doesn't know anything. So, in this case, we will say he is stupid. He is stupid because he doesn't know anything. So, he is stupid all the time. This is a simple form of be, right? But let's imagine another scenario. Let's say John is sick, but he doesn't want to go to the hospital. So you see that now it's a precise or a specific situation. I'm not saying that Jonas is stupid all the time, but at this moment he is acting very stupidly. So if you think of a timeline, right now he's acting stupidly. But he's not stupid all the time, so he is being stupid. Okay? This is possible to be done with verb to be. Okay? So, my dear, I hope you have liked, I hope you have enjoyed this class. More importantly, I hope you have learned more things about present simple and present continuous. And this is the last class about it. Okay? Next class is going to be about past simple, and we will continue from that. Okay? Thank you very much for watching. See you in our next video. Bye-bye.